Yo, 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 what's the deal? It's your boy J Nev, and welcome back to another episode of The Last Word, Super Bowl edition. I'm here live on a Sunday afternoon, which is kind of funny because I actually recorded yesterday a full 30 to 45-minute masterpiece somewhere in there, and I accidentally deleted the file. And I was devastated to say the least, but that was a stupid mistake by myself. So I have no one to blame but me because, I'm recording, I'm engineering, and I'm editing all of this, pretty much by myself. So, but I made a dumb mistake last night. But here I am to make up for that. And it kind of worked out, in a good way because I had a little bit more time to do a little extra studying, but I'm not going to do the full version of what I had yesterday because it's almost Super Bowl time, man. It's 12:50. I'm running a little late, and I got quite a few things to do before I sit down and actually enjoy the festivities. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and jump right into it. But first, before I start talking about the Super Bowl, I want to talk something that's a little bit related to football, and that's the reports of the Saints potentially hiring the Philadelphia offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, for my New Orleans Saints. And I got to say, I'm really thrilled. I hope that deal goes through. According to ESPN and their sources, all signs point to that's pretty much a done deal. They just have to do the formal stuff after the season is over. So win, lose, or draw, the Saints will be looking at a new coach. I thought they needed a younger coach so that they can kind of connect with, potentially moving the direction in a younger quarterback. They're going to have to, invest in a younger quarterback. We're not too sure what they're going to do with Derek Carr at this point. But we do have Spencer Rattler, and there's a lot of, talk about the Saints potentially drafting a quarterback. So I think a younger coordinator or a younger coach with a more modern offense will fit a younger quarterback. And so I'm really thrilled to see how that works out. But we're not going to talk about the Saints today, obviously, because we got a really, really good Super Bowl or a game I think that should be a good Super Bowl brewing. And, man, let me tell you, man, there's nothing like a good clash of styles, and there's nothing like a good rematch. Obviously, these two teams played, two Super Bowls ago, and, that was quite a barn burner within itself, a classic in my opinion. And the Chiefs, like they always do, found a way to pull it out before going back-to-back last year and winning in overtime against the San Francisco 49ers, which was another instant classic. And to be honest, I expect today to be, for the third time in a row, an instant classic. Typically, the Super Bowl is a good game anyway. I can remember a few bad blowouts that come to mind. The New York Giants when they played the Baltimore Ravens in that defense in 2000. They got stumped out. And unfortunately, I got to admit, I'm a big Peyton Manning fan. That's probably my favorite football player of all time. When they went up against Seattle in that Legion of Boom, and pretty much, neutralized that record-breaking offense that season. And if you notice anything about those two matchups, the recurring theme is what it usually is in football, is that defense wins championships, as was the obvious conclusion in those two particular matchups. But in this game, although the defenses are statistically pretty good, I would like to, focus on what most people would like to focus on, and that's the offense. And just kind of starting off, from what I expect and what I like to see from Philadelphia is, I want to know, man, will y'all be able to run the football? Because everybody know that's what y'all are going to do. You got the number one rushing offensive line, the number one rushing offense, period. 2,000-yard rushing in Saquon Barkley, a pretty mobile quarterback in Jalen Hurts. And that's pretty much what got you here anyway. But with the Chiefs having 2 weeks to prepare for that, are you going to be able to, obviously it's done in kind of a gimmicky style, the run-pass option is what they like to do. And, along with the traditional hands-off to Saquon Barkley. But they do a good job of mixing up, the way they do run the football. But once again, that's one thing to do it when, in the middle of the season. It's another thing to do it in a Super Bowl when a team has 2 weeks to prepare for it. And I will say this also about Philadelphia's, rushing, leading the league in rushing. And it's not to take away from anybody, but I always kind of think about these when it comes to these big clashes like we're going to have later on this afternoon, is that Philadelphia does play in a division where there's not a whole lot of resistance to the rushing game. If I'm not mistaken, Dallas wasn't a team that was proficient at stopping the run. I remember when we played them, New Orleans went to Dallas, we ran all over them. I remember watching Derrick Henry run all over them. So they played Dallas twice, and then you play New York twice. I mean, that's just, New York is just bad all around. So how much, stake when it comes to a game of this magnitude against a solid rushing attack like Kansas City can, if Philadelphia doesn't kind of, come with a different approach to a degree, how are they going to be able to just line it up and run it right at Kansas City? Which brings me to my next point. What I would like to see Philadelphia do is come out in a sort of a spread formation, which would be to break tendency. Because in a game like the Super Bowl, you should be willing to break tendency. You got to show the team something different. If they're expecting something, then you got to show them something else. That's how Bill Belichick was able to, be great for so long with the Patriots, is that he always morphed his game plan to fit the weaknesses of the other team. And that was both offense and defense. If he knew you were bad at running the ball, or stopping the run, he didn't mind handing it off to whoever running back he had 40, 50 times if he had to do it, because he knew you weren't going to be able to stop it. Also on defense, if he knew your line had trouble picking up blitzes, he was going to blitz you to death. If he knew you couldn't read or progress through a zone, he didn't mind dropping 8 or 9 people back to make you force it into some coverage and make an interception or something like that, or just a minimal gain at best. If he knew you were good at throwing the ball deep, he was not going to let you beat him over the top. He was going to double, triple, send coverage to a specific receiver to completely take him out of the game. And I think Philadelphia's version of that would be spread it out. You got A.J. Brown, you got Devontae Smith, you got Dallas Goedert. Heck, even use your running backs. And you don't have to throw 50, 60-yard bombs, but, instead of just turning around and handing it to Saquon, specifically early in the game, how about just throwing it, some 2-3-yard quick slants? Just, basically a play that's very similar to a run or an extension of the run. Hit them with some bubble screens, keep Kansas City off balance, and maybe later in the second half, if you possess the ball long enough, you can get them tired. And then you can hammer them with Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts. Not to say you shouldn't use them at all in the first half, but you probably definitely want to give Kansas City a different look, because I got a feeling that they're going to be sitting on Saquon. Everybody and their mama knows what Philadelphia excels at: ball control, running the football, and just pummeling you straight into submission. But Kansas City has already seen many teams like that. In fact, they play in a division that starkly contrasts Philadelphia's. I didn't mention Washington because Washington had a good season. I realize I didn't do that, but I didn't mention them because, they actually had a good season, whereas Dallas and, New York didn't. And Washington was decent against the run. They weren't necessarily world beaters, but they did do a good job of limiting Detroit in the playoffs, as we've seen. And at least in one of the games against Philadelphia, Saquon got loose early, but they kind of limited him in the second half. That probably has something to do with Jalen Hurts getting hurt, but, that's another subject for another day. But Philadelphia, can you run this vanilla game plan that we all know is coming effectively against a team like Kansas City? And if you can't, are you willing to break tendency? That's what I'm looking to watch. What is Philadelphia how are they going to approach this game, specifically in the first half? On the other side, if you're Kansas City, I'm looking at, okay, can you protect the football? Can you play within yourself like you've been doing? This game, to me, will come down simply to Kansas City on their half. Can they take care of the football? No turnovers, or at least win the turnover battle. If you're gonna turn the ball over via interception or fumble or something like that, or even turnover on downs for that matter, can you force Philadelphia to turn it over 3 times? And so I honestly don't think either team will be turning the ball over too much. That's why it's imperative for Kansas City to not turn the football over, because going up against a team that likes to grind the clock out on you, that means it's going to limit possessions. And every possession in this game for both offenses will be paramount valuable, that you maximize and get points however you can get them, because you don't know how many times you're going to get the football, and you can't really rely on the other team to turn the football over. I know Andy Reid is going to have some tricks up his sleeve as well, so it'll be interesting to see what foreign formations he throws out there. Is he going to line up Travis Kelce at quarterback sometimes, kind of wildcat-looking formations? Is he going to use Xavier Worthy a little bit more in the rushing game? You know he has a few aces or two up his sleeve, but for the most part, it's going to come down to Patrick Mahomes, taking care of the football. And if they do that, they'll be just fine. Also, another important aspect in a game like this, I think that gets overlooked along with the offensive line and the trench war on both sides, is the special teams. And I gotta say, man, I'm not too confident in Philadelphia's special teams right now. I know Elliott has gotten a little bit. He did a little bit better in against Washington, I should say, in the NFC Championship game. But before that, man, I can't tell you how many extra points and missed field goals he's had throughout the season. And that just, in a game like this, that just, you can't have any, especially on gimmies like extra points. This is probably going to be a possession game or less, barring some kind of, turnover spree by either team and helping the other team out. And so what we can say about Kansas City is that their punter is one of the best in the NFL at reversing field position. And Harrison Butker, their kicker, is pretty automatic, especially in the playoffs. And going back to that turnover, I just thought about a random stat that I meant to mention earlier. The Chiefs have only turned the ball over, I think, once in the last 8 games or so. So there you have it. So both teams are going to need their special teams to come up in a big way, and I'd have to give the edge to Kansas City in that department. And so it's really going to be a nip and tuck game. And, for what it's worth, we got to give some credit to Kansas City. I don't want to make this whole particular episode about Kansas City, but what they're on the cusp of doing, potentially three-peating, I don't think we're ever going to see this again. So I'm excited to see if they're able to do it. And Andy Reid as well, man. If he can win another Super Bowl, we got to start talking about him being the greatest coach of all time. He has to be in that conversation. I know, the consensus is kind of Bill Belichick, but if he three-peats and wins a 4th Super Bowl, it's time to have that conversation, because Andy Reid, man, he has been phenomenal. I remember watching him when he was with Philadelphia, ironically enough, playing against his former team for the second time in the Super Bowl. Man, you can't make this stuff up. But I remember he was grinding just trying to get past the NFC Championship, and for a while that looked like the biggest hump. And then when he finally did, they lose in the Super Bowl to the New England Patriots. And so, he ends up in Kansas City, a few years later, and he's kind of struggling, to get out of the first round with Alex Smith, and then eventually Patrick Mahomes takes over in 2017, 2018, and it's been no looking back ever since. And so you're talking about trials and tribulations, a coach that has been, tested, battle-tested with the best of them, man. We got to give these boys their props, man. And if once again, if Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs pull this off, along with Patrick Mahomes as well, I think that's more of an obvious one. You can say what you want about Patrick Mahomes too, man. If he wins a 4th Super Bowl, in such a, a short time span, we definitely got to start talking about him being in that GOAT conversation as well. In my opinion, he already is, but, you got a lot of people out there, a lot of Brady fans, and rightfully so. Tom Brady, is the GOAT at this point. But, I mean, at the rate that the Chiefs are going, especially if they can win another one, we really going to have some serious talks about that GOAT coach conversation and that GOAT quarterback conversation. But, hey, the game must be played. The game still has to be played. And, I really, during the Super Bowl week or the build up to the Super Bowl, I like to listen to how teams are approaching, interviews. And I must say, man, that the Chiefs really sound like they are locked in. They really sound like they sound like a team that never won a Super Bowl. And I don't know if I've ever heard a team that has been so successful as them sound like they haven't won anything. And to me, that just speaks volumes to where this team is and how locked in they're in. And with that being said, I think they're gonna do this thing, man. I think they're gonna pull it off in a close game, kind of similar to the Buffalo game. I just think, man, destiny. I'm not a big believer in destiny, so I don't want to sound superstitious, but just it's hard to argue with them and just being so battle tested. I mean, every time they've been in a close game this season, they found a way to pull it out, and they just find so many different ways to pull it out. The Eagles' path to victory is simple. It's straightforward. They have to run the football, control the clock, and demoralize the Chiefs, defense, for the lack of better terms, keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. But somehow, some way, the Chiefs, there's multiple paths. I mean, if you were going to ask me who the MVP was going to be if the Chiefs are to win, it could literally be anybody. Obviously, Mahomes would be the favorite because he's the quarterback, but it could be one of the running backs. It could be Kareem Hunt. It could be Pacheco. It could be Travis Kelce. It could be one of the receivers. It could be Worth. It could be DeAndre Hopkins. Heck, it could be Chris. It could be Chris Jones on the defensive side of the football. So it's just like, man, there's just so many different paths to victory for them. It's hard to argue, and it's hard to see them not doing this unless they completely self-destruct and either turn the ball over uncharacteristically or commit some foolish penalties. And once again, I think this will be pretty much a cleanly played game. I don't think either team will commit too many penalties or turn the football over too much. So that should make for a really, really exciting game. Because let me tell you, man, I watched some of those Monday night games and Thursday night games with Troy Aikman and Joe Buck, and boy, those games were some flag fest. Even they were commenting and laughing and joking about it. I mean, there were so many penalties, it was kind of adding like an hour to the game. So much stoppages in play. But I don't expect to see too much laundry today. And on the subject of laundry, I guess I got to mention it, man, since it was brought up throughout the week, just throughout this whole dynastic run for the Kansas City Chiefs, is the whole idea of the Chiefs getting, let's just call it what it is, man. People just flat out, calling the game rigged towards the Chiefs, as if to say that the Chiefs have the refs in their pockets, or if the Chiefs, are getting preferential treatment from the league and things of that sort. Teams are conspiring. The refs in the NFL is conspiring to make sure that the Chiefs are in the best situation to win. And listen, I get it. I'm a fan. I'm a passionate fan. I love sports. Sports has, been my biggest connector to people and the relationships I have in my life. So I love sports, but come on, man, let's just stop all of the foolishness, man. It doesn't matter who you're rooting for, which side of the token you are. Listen, there's been, I'll admit, we've watched a lot of star players in a lot of sports, from Michael Jordan to Kobe Bryant, to even football teams like Alabama, Crimson Tide in football, even some football teams, the Patriots, when they were on a dynastic run. And listen, yes, it's true, superstars tend to get the benefit of the doubt on calls, but that doesn't mean that the game is rigged or the refs are cheating for a particular team. Man, quit all of that foolishness, man. I mean, I'm all for, conspiracy theories if they make sense, but this is just one that doesn't make sense. I mean, what does the league have to gain from the Chiefs winning all the time? Wouldn't that hurt the product more than anything to have the same team winning. That just doesn't make sense, and that's kind of counteractive to what football, the business of football is all about. It's about making money, and I don't think the NFL wants to see the same team win every year. That's just how it happens sometimes. When a team, figures some stuff out, they can go on a dynastic run, and it makes perfect sense. When you got a coach like Andy Reid, you got a quarterback in Patrick Mahomes, they're going to win a lot of football games. You just got to accept that, man, whether you're a Chiefs fan or not. That shouldn't matter. I'm pretty sure if this was anybody else's favorite team, they wouldn't be having these same silly arguments about the Chiefs getting, the refs basically cheating for, for the Chiefs to win and put them in winning positions, and the season or a specific game being quote unquote scripted. Now, I have seen some strange things happen in sports events that kind of make me scratch my head. So once again, I understand, the thought process behind it, but at the same time, you also have to understand that there are facts that easily dispel those types of notions. So, man, my point is, man, whether you're a Chiefs fan or Eagles fan, man, or even if you're just a completely different fan of a different team like me, New Orleans, I do enjoy watching the Chiefs play, but I enjoy watching the Eagles play. I tend to root for the Chiefs a little bit more because, through the years they've had a lot of, different players from LSU. They typically, if you watch football long enough, there's certain organizations in the NFL tend to draft players from, certain colleges, and, Kansas City has been a team. I can even think back to players like Dwayne Bowe, who played at LSU in the early 2000s, and players like Glenn Dorsey, who played won a national championship at LSU in the 2007 season. I actually was at LSU, as a undergrad student at the time. It was my freshman year in college, in fact, and so that was that was a special time. But it's just one of those things where it doesn't matter who your team is. Just sit back, man, enjoy the game, and appreciate the greatness of what the Chiefs are going after, and I hope they do it, man, because I don't think we'll ever see it again, at least not in my lifetime, a team winning 3 Super Bowls in a row. That is hard as heck, man, to even just fathom somebody doing that. Last team that came close was the Patriots, and even they couldn't get it done, and they were pretty dynastic in their own right, that magical run that they had. And so, man, just man, chill and enjoy the game, man. And, strive for greatness. That's another kind of message. I like to find little stories and little things to motivate me in life, to keep me going and help me to reach some goals. And I think, man, for both teams, even the Eagles, I'm talking about the Chiefs a lot, but the Eagles getting back to a second Super Bowl after failing a season ago, that doesn't happen often either. So you got to give the Eagles credit for standing pat and sticking through, because for last year it looked like Nick Sirianni wasn't even going to make it through the season. It looked like he was going to lose his job, because we seen that a few years ago after Doug Peterson won the Super Bowl. He got fired, like, not the year after, but I think the season after that. So for Nick Sirianni, I got to give him his props, man, because I thought he was going to be a goner, and he found a way to rally this team through Saquon Barkley. They picked him up in the offseason, and the rest is history. But, man, if they gonna have a chance today, man, they gotta mix it up, man. They gotta get that pass game going. I just, sorry, Philly fans. I know a lot of Philly fans. I love y'all, man. I love y'all families. But, man, the Chiefs is a different type of monster, man, and it's just their time. It's looking more and more like it, as we get closer to kickoff, that today gonna end with another Chiefs banner, and I'm excited to watch it. Well, that's all I really got for today. I would have liked it to have been longer. And I had, like I said, such a beautiful, elegant, angle for y'all yesterday. But I foolishly and idiotically deleted it, I was grinding yesterday, man. So I had a lot going on. So I was really, 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 really kind of tired when I did record. But I had a lot of energy with it. I wouldn't, I really wanted to do it, but I foolishly deleted it. But I got y'all a little something, man. I hope y'all enjoy it. Thank y'all for rolling with me, and enjoy the Super Bowl. I'm going to get back with y'all as soon as possible and probably do like a recap sometime later in the week. Till then, man, y'all stay good. Peace.